Have you ever felt like you don't belong in this world? Not the normal kind of, I don't fit in. Not social awkwardness. Something deeper. Like you're living inside a system that was never built for you. You look around at other people and wonder, how can they be comfortable inside a life that's suffocating them? How can they accept rules that feel wrong at the root? If you've ever felt that, place your hand over the center of your chest right now. No perfect posture, no performance, just your hand, right there. Pause 2 Sekunden. What do you feel? A warmth, a pulse, a quiet sensation that feels like recognition. That isn't random, that is your body remembering. Something inside you knew to click on this tonight. Something ancient, something patient, something that has been waiting for you to arrive at the right moment. And here is what power structures spent centuries trying to bury. In the Pistis Sophia, there is a scene the church never wanted you to find. It takes place just after the resurrection, in a hidden chamber, not with crowds, not with casual followers. Only the closest ones, only those who carried something different inside them. And in that room, Jesus said a sentence that turned into a blade. Not all chosen ones are the same. Music thickens slightly. It sounds simple, but that sentence breaks everything. Because if not all chosen ones are the same, then not everyone awakens the same way. Not everyone functions the same way. Not everyone belongs in the same spiritual mold. And more than that, if there are different frequencies of awakened consciousness, then there is one frequency powerful enough to dismantle the Archon system itself. That is the part they tried to erase. And tonight, you're going to hear it. 8 types of chosen ones. 8 variations of the divine spark. 8 frequencies of pneumatic consciousness. But I need to tell you this at the beginning. Only one of these 8 types carries the frequency that terrifies the system. Only one threatens everything they built. And if you are the 8th type, you will finally understand why your life has felt like a war you never volunteered for. If you're listening to this after midnight, leave a signal for the others. Just one word, 8th. Not for engagement, not for the algorithm, for yourself. Because the monad doesn't speak through coincidence. Part 1. Why this teaching was the most dangerous thing the early church ever encountered. Music bed, faint page turns, distant fire. Before we go into the 8 types, you need to understand why these teachings were treated like a threat to the empire. This isn't philosophy. It isn't an opinion. In the Gnostic worldview, the classification of souls was a form of spiritual science, a map of how consciousness works, who awakens, why they awaken, and how they are prevented from awakening. When institutions found that map, they didn't debate it, they burned it. The 4th century, an empire needed a unified religion to control a fractured world, a unified doctrine to manage millions. So councils were formed, texts were selected, other texts were condemned, and the most dangerous teachings, the ones that gave individuals direct access to the monad without priests, without temples, without permission, were marked for destruction, because a person who discovers they can touch the source directly is no longer controllable. And then, centuries later, 1945, a farmer in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, found sealed jars in the ground. Inside them, texts hidden for more than 1,000 years. Some people call that archaeology. Some people call it luck. But if you understand frequency, you know it was an appointment. Among those texts, Pistis Sophia, and inside it what Jesus gave to the inner circle. 3 primary soul categories, and within the 3rd, 8 types. Tonight, you will find yourself on this map. Part 2, the 3 soul categories: Hilic, Psychic, Pneumatic. Music, slow, low pulse. In the Gnostic architecture, humanity is not spiritually uniform. Not everyone carries the same spark. Not everyone has the same capacity to awaken. 3 categories. 1. The Hylix, souls with no divine spark at all. Not evil, not monsters, simply material. They live entirely through the 5 senses. Work, eat, fear, survive, die. The idea of higher reality is genuinely incomprehensible to them. They do not awaken because there is nothing in them to awaken. The system doesn't need to suppress them. They already belong to it. 2. The Psychics. They carry a dim spark, flickering, unstable. They sense something is off. They may explore religion, philosophy, spirituality, but the inner fire is not intense enough to pierce the veil. The system manages them with a subtle strategy. Give them just enough spiritual experience to soothe the longing, but never enough to trigger true liberation. Many churches are filled with psychics who believe they found truth, when they only found a comfortable resting place. 3. The Pneumatics, the chosen ones. They carry a complete divine spark, a fragment of the monad inside consciousness itself. They didn't earn it. They didn't achieve it. They arrived with it. And from childhood, they felt friction. Friction with false rules. Friction with performances. Friction with lies people call normal. If you're pneumatic, you don't need to believe these words. Your body will recognize them. Take a slow breath right now. Pause 2 Sekunden. Notice how your chest shifts when you hear the language of recognition. Part 3. The 8 types within the pneumatics. Music becomes slightly brighter, still mysterious. Here is where Jesus went further than any teacher before him. Within the pneumatics, there are 8 distinct frequencies, 8 types, not to divide, but to explain something you've felt your entire life. You are not wrong. You are not broken. You are a different frequency. And when you know your frequency, you stop trying to live by rules designed for someone else. I'm going to name each type. While you listen, notice your body. One of these descriptions will hit your chest like a quiet bell. That is your spark identifying itself. Type 1, the Seer. Seers are pneumatics whose spark manifests through perception. They see what others can't. They detect lies instinctively. They walk into rooms and feel what's hidden. As children, they were told, "You're imagining things." But they weren't. They were reading frequency, gift, truth, vision, burden. Witnessing wounds they can't always heal. If you've always seen through people, if you knew things before they unfolded, if others called you paranoid when you were simply accurate, you may carry the seer frequency. Type 2, the Healer. Healers carry a spark that naturally transmutes pain. People feel better around them without knowing why. Strangers confess to them. They absorb heaviness without realizing they're doing it. Gift, restoration, burden, depletion. If crowds drain you, if you feel others' pain in your own body, if you leave conversations tired for no logical reason, you may carry the Healer frequency. Type 3, the Prophet. Prophets receive direct transmissions from the source, not vague intuition, not guessing. Knowing complete and sudden, they speak truths that disrupt comfort. They cannot stay silent when deception is present. Gift, revelation, burden, isolation. If words come through you that surprise even you, if you've known things you shouldn't logically know, if your speech triggers strong reactions, you may carry the Prophet frequency. Type 4, the Guardian. Guardians are natural protectors. They sense threats before they appear. They position themselves between danger and the vulnerable without thinking. Gift, protection, burden, constant vigilance. If you always scan exits, if you feel responsible for others' safety, if you've stepped into situations where everyone else froze, you may carry the guardian frequency. Type 5, the decoder. Decoders recognize patterns invisible to others. They see the architecture beneath surface reality. They connect dots across domains that appear unrelated. Gift, system vision. Burden, seeing how deep manipulation runs. If control structures seem obvious to you, if you learn fast by recognizing frameworks, if you constantly see the design behind the chaos, you may carry the decoder frequency. Type 6, the anchor. Anchors stabilize spiritual energy in physical places. Where they live becomes a sanctuary. Where they work becomes calmer. They ground higher frequencies into material reality. Gift, sacred space. Burden, immobility. If your home becomes the gathering place, if moving feels physically painful, if people relax simply by being near you, you may carry the anchor frequency. Type 7, the mirror. Mirrors reflect truth back to others. People see themselves clearly in the presence of a mirror, sometimes for the first time. That can trigger healing or violent rejection. Gift, catalyzing awareness. Burden, being blamed for what others see. If people react strongly to you without clear reason, if you're accused of judgments you never made, if your presence triggers transformation or hostility, you may carry the mirror frequency. Pause 2 Sekunde. Now stop. Notice which descriptions created resonance. Which one made your breath catch? Which one tightened your chest? Which one made your skin prickle? That is data, but we still haven't touched the deepest part. Part 4. The 8th type, the disruptor. Music, tension rises, low heartbeat. I saved the 8th type for last on purpose. In the tradition, when Jesus described it in that hidden room, the atmosphere changed. Someone asked, "Why have we never heard of this?" And the answer, they say, silence the room, because this type is rare and inherently dangerous to the system. Speaking of it openly places them at immediate risk. The 8th type is called the disruptor. The disruptor doesn't just perceive the system like the seer. They don't just heal the damage like the healer. They don't just speak truth like the prophet. They carry a frequency that dismantles Archon architecture. Where they walk, manipulation loses coherence. Where they focus, illusions collapse. This is not metaphor. It's frequency mechanics. Fear vibrates at one band, confusion at another, separation at another. Those bands weave together into a net, an invisible grid that keeps consciousness trapped. Many pneumatics can see the net. Some can heal those damaged by it, but the disruptor vibrates at a frequency that shreds the net itself. If you want to go deeper into this, say one sentence inside yourself right now. I am ready. Not for me, for your nervous system, for your spark, because this is where everything changes. Part 5. How to identify the disruptor frequency. Disruptors often feel like a threat to systems, even good systems. As children, they asked questions that made teachers uncomfortable. Not clever questions, root questions. Why do we have to do it this way? Who benefits if we believe this? What happens if everyone obeys? As adults, they notice something. Rooms change when they enter. Not because they try to change anything, but because their frequency is incompatible with false structures. Lies collapse in their presence. Hidden agendas surface. Performances choke. Have you experienced this? You walk into a room and conversations stop. You arrive and someone becomes suddenly defensive. You do nothing and yet tension rises. Ask yourself, was it really because you were doing something wrong? Or because something in you exposed what was already wrong? Pause 2 Sekunde. In the Gnostic view, the Archons identify disruptors early. A fully activated disruptor can undo decades of construction, so they developed countermeasures. Part 6. The 4 countermeasures used against disruptors. First, isolation. Convince them they're too intense, too sensitive, too much. Make their natural frequency feel like a disorder. Second, exhaustion. Surround them with crises, energy vampires, constant survival mode. When you're drained, you can't activate. Third, misdirection. Channel their disruptive power into safe, approved battles. Let them rebel inside boundaries that never threaten real control. Fourth, and the most devastating, mislabeling. Tell the disruptor they're just a seer, just a healer, just a prophet. Keep them operating at 30% of their capacity. And the painful part is, they will always feel there's something larger inside them. But they can't name what's missing. If you've ever felt, I know I wasn't born to live normally, but I don't know what I'm here to do. Listen closely to what comes next. Part 7. The 3 recognitions that activate the disruptor. Jesus didn't only classify the 8th type, he taught an activation sequence. 3 recognitions, 1 alignment, and once it turns on, you cannot go back. Recognition. 1. Origin. The disruptor must recognize their frequency did not originate in this realm. They are not souls that evolved upward through material incarnations. They are fragments of the monad that descended specifically to disrupt the net. The discomfort you felt your entire life is not failure. It is foreign origin. You were never meant to fit here. You were meant to change here. Recognition. 2. Authority. The disruptor must realize they do not need permission to operate. Not from institutions, not from teachers, not from other pneumatics. The monad did not send them here to ask, it sent them here to act. Every moment spent seeking validation is a moment the system uses to remain intact. You already carry authority. Recognition is activation. Recognition 3. Function. You are not here to fix the system. You are here to end it. Not through violence, not through chaos, through frequency. When the disruptor embodies their nature, they become a living portal to the source. And in the presence of that portal, anything built on deception cannot maintain coherence. Straighten your spine. Pause 1 Sekunde. Feel the alignment from the base to the crown. This is the channel the disruptor frequency moves through most powerfully. If you recognized yourself in multiple types tonight, especially 4 or more, pay attention. Disruptors often carry echoes of all 7 frequencies. They are not specialists, they are synthesizers. And because the system can't categorize them, it can't contain them. Part 8. What happens after recognition? After recognition, changes often follow. Not because of magic, because you've changed the channel. You may notice synchronicities accelerating, people from the past reaching out, obstacles dissolving without effort, dreams becoming vivid, instructional, pressure at the center of the forehead, warmth in the chest, hearing becoming sharper, like you're detecting layers you never noticed before. And you may also notice resistance, sudden doubt, sudden conflict, sudden interference. Do not panic. In the language of the system, that resistance is a sign you touched the net. Your only job is this. Hold your frequency. Do not fight the noise. Do not wrestle shadows. Stand steady and remember who you are. Part 9 closing. 8 types, 1 promise. Music opens wider, still mystical. Tonight you heard the 8 types: seer, healer, prophet, guardian, decoder, anchor, mirror, disruptor. Not to inflate you, not to separate you, to end the self-condemnation. You are not lost. You were never broken. You were simply the wrong frequency for a false structure. And if you are the disruptor, understand this: the feeling that life is a battlefield wasn't imagined. You've always walked through layers of performance. You've always exposed what was hidden. And that is why you were misunderstood, drained, targeted. But the truth is, you were not born to be loved by the system. You were born to make the system incapable of operating the same way. Pause 2 Sekunden. Place your hand over your heart one last time and speak these 3 recognitions slowly, out loud. Origin, authority, function, not as a spell, as a calibration, as a reminder your nervous system can't ignore. If you want to leave a signal beneath your audio or video: seer, I see; healer, I heal; prophet, I reveal; guardian, I protect; decoder, I decode; anchor, I anchor; mirror, I reflect; disruptor. The 8th awakens, not to show off, so the others know they are not alone. Music fades. They can burn books. They can erase communities. They can rewrite gospels, but they cannot extinguish a frequency that was never theirs to control. And tonight, that frequency recognized itself in you. Pause 3 Sekunden. Now you only have one task: live as your true signal. And if you are the disruptor, begin with something small. Stop pretending. Stop shrinking to fit. Stop asking permission to be yourself. Stand upright and exist. Because sometimes your existence is already a revolution.